What is going on, everyone? And welcome back to the Sports Talk on Tap podcast. We're here. You can find daily videos Monday through Friday covering all the four major sports leagues, whether it be NBA, NFL, NHL, or MLB. We're here to talk about it. And in today's NBA episode, Nick, I think, we've touched on a lot of the contenders and, who's gone better, who's gone worse. But one team we want to focus in on today is the Milwaukee Bucks. And, frankly, the question is their championship window closed? Obviously, you go back 2021, they win the championship against Phoenix, then they lose a hard-fought 7 games to the Celtics. There was really kind of no shame in that. And then the year after that, they're the 1 seed again. Everything's riding high. And then playoff Jimmy Butler just really set himself being like the 6-8 seed to defeat a 1 seed. And then that's when the Bucks, traded out Drew Holiday and a lot of their, depth to get Damian Lillard. And everyone's like, all right, superstar duo, 65 plus wins. Do they challenge the Bulls all-time win record? Just when's the parade? But unfortunately, they don't even win 50 games. They're kind of, a weird year. Dame doesn't really quite have a Damian Lillard season, despite, staying healthy a decent amount, was injured. But, Giannis was also injured and ended up missing the playoffs. And so despite being the 3 seed, they still get bounced in 6 games to the Pacers. They had a mid-coaching change throughout the year. And, just kind of with the moves we've seen, Nick, from the Knicks to get Mikal Bridges, re-sign OG Anunoby, be really aggressive. We've seen the Sixers go out and trade for Paul George. Obviously, the Celtics will be there running it back. Can the Bucks still be a contender in the East with Giannis and this team, or what needs to change? Kind of, if they aren't.
I say yes. We talk about on previous NBA episodes how top heavy. Well, kind of top heavy the East is, but also just how it seems like the NBA is going to kind of run through the West. I know the Celtics won it out of the East this year. They were kind of the best team in the NBA, but the West is kind of where it's way more competitive, and it's kind of way more you don't know who's going to come out of it.
It's really all about matchups, for the Celtics. They just matched up really well with the Mavericks.
I say the Bucks championship window is not closed. Giannis is still relatively young. He kind of went through some injuries that kind of robbed them of in the playoffs this year, especially against the Pacers, but still give credit to the Pacers for, winning that series. But I wouldn't say it's closed. I think they made a huge mistake trading away Drew Holiday, and I think any Bucks fan will tell you that. I see it all over social media. Whenever you see, picture of Drew Holiday on the Celtics or whatever, like all the fans will say, like, why did we trade him away? Why did we do that? And it proved costly this year, and I don't know how costly it'll be, in the years to come. But I still think when you have a guy like Giannis, your championship window is there. We saw how good he was when they won the title a few years ago. Like that might have been the best, finals MVP we've seen in quite some time, maybe since like 2016 LeBron, I would argue, or like one of those KD years. But Giannis was just dominant. So when he's healthy and the best player on the floor, like the Bucks still scare me as a Celtics fan. They beat us by what, like 40 earlier this year, I believe. With I know there was a game the Celtics won with their starters out, but then Celtics played them with their starters in, and the Bucks won by like 30 or 40. And I was like this might be one of the teams that's going to really be gunning for us. And just unfortunately, we couldn't see that matchup because of injuries or whatnot. But ultimately. Yeah. I think they still have a few years with Giannis to get a title.
I was actually thinking we disagree. Maybe you put your Celtics, bias in play a little. But yeah, I do agree. I think when you have still a top 3 player in the world, I'm going to put you in a contender. I think it's a weird year with Damian Lillard, and he is getting another year older, but he still has showed flashes last year of, being a really good player. We saw him just in the first playoff game alone, 35 points in the first half. You know, and you know me, Nick, with grades. I'm not gonna grade them after one season because the amount of hate, you remember the Rudy Gobert trade got after one season. Yeah, I always like to give patience. So I give a 2-year window before, I rule any part of the Dame trade out. But I do agree, obviously, losing Drew Holiday was awful no matter how you change it because Drew Holiday goes first year with the Bucks, wins a championship, first year with the Celtics, wins a championship. So there's no coincidence the impact he has on winning. And I think he was the scapegoat for Jimmy Butler just going on a legacy run last playoffs. Just nothing you could do. A lot of those shots were tough shots that Drew Holiday contested really well. Just they went in. Nothing you can really do at some point just besides tip your cap. But yeah, no, I do think, I still obviously have a lot of question marks with this team. Brook Lopez, is he still be on the team? He's another year older. And he really showed signs of slowing down last year. But at the end of the day, you still have Giannis, Damian Lillard, if they could fit in even more so this Doc Rivers, as much shit as I give him, and a lot of fans do. He has a full offseason now to prepare, so the excuses should be out the window because he was riding the excuse bus all season long. Can he dial up some, offensive and defensive, game plans to help, with Damian Lillard's, defensive, liabilities, can the Bucks, they did take a step better in being better on the defensive end with Doc, but they took a step back on offense. So, can he find some offensive sets as well to, help them? And mainly, obviously, you can't have an injury just because of their depth. They lost, Malik Beasley. But, what can they do to help fill out this roster? Can Chris Middleton, play 60 games? Because in the playoffs, he was really good. That was kind of an underlying thing because they obviously lost in the first round. But Chris Middleton was a dog. So you still have the top-end talent with Giannis, even with Dame and with Middleton. And just kind of like you said, a matchup thing. I don't know what it is, but they do match up well with the Celtics where even, despite all the weird fits and stuff, it's still going to be a 6-7 game series, I feel like. If they were to, match up fully healthy, that is. But, we'll have to see. But at the end of the day, Milwaukee has to prove the haters wrong. Damian Lillard, I think, has to bounce back, just look like himself. And, Giannis, obviously, I think will continue to look like himself. He's still in his prime, still a really good player, top 3. I think I would put him in my rankings ahead of Luka, just what he does offense or defensively. And what I saw from Luka in the finals was just absolutely disgusting. So I can't put Luka ahead of Giannis, considering Giannis also has the ring. So, with that being said, it's just kind of, can Giannis, his team bounce back? I think they can, but they still need some of the step needs to prove. Can their first round pick that we had question marks, can they help them out? Because they didn't really address any of their issues in free agency like we talked about. So could they have gone, they're kind of relying on inner development to, help them. We saw AJ Green have some flashes. Can he, assert himself into a full-time role as, a backup, or even, starting some games? That'll be a question mark. I'm curious to see. But yeah, it's going to be a weird season in Milwaukee, but I'm just here to see how it all works out because they're looking to bounce back from a disgusting season, but didn't do much, to bring in outside help. They're kind of relying on the inner development of players.
Yeah. This is really the first time that I can remember, and I'm assuming, where Damian Lillard is really being asked to be the 2 because Giannis this year still put up, and he very well could have won MVP with the numbers he put up. He put up, 30 points a game, 11 rebounds, whatever. He's finished top 5 in MVP voting since, I believe, 2018. So he's a top 5, probably a top 3 player in the world. So I agree with you. I'd probably put him over Luka too for the defensive aspect and just the pure dominance aspect. Like, yes, Luka can knock down any shot, no matter who's in his face on defense, but you can expose him on, when you're on the offensive side of the ball. With Giannis, it's not so much like that. Like, he can shut you down on offense too. So I think as long as Dame, comes into that high caliber 2 role, kind of like what we saw with maybe like Klay Thompson in Golden State, where he was a incredible number 2 to Steph Curry, or even, when Kevin Durant was there, like you could argue they had 2 1s in KD and Curry, but I mean, that's that team was just unreal. But if Dame can kind of come into that 2 role and play off of Giannis, because if Giannis isn't their number one option, then they're doing something wrong. Like if Dame's taking 20, 25 shots a game and they're just using Giannis for boards and blocks, like I think they're doing something wrong, because as good as Dame is, he's probably a top 15 player in the league. Giannis is a top 3, maybe a top 2 player in the league. It might just be him and Jokic up there, by themselves fighting for that 1 and 2. But I think if they can come into that 1-2 punch, really figure out their roles, work together, like you said, they'll have a full off season with a new. I'm not going to say a good head coach because I know Doc Rivers won a chip with the Celtics, but he's been a known playoff choker. But overall, yeah, my point kind of stands. Yeah, if you have Giannis, you're probably a contender.
I'm curious how they do fill out the rest of the roster. You obviously still have on the bench Bobby Portis, who's a real dog. I love Bobby Portis. Just his competitiveness. Get 1 or 2 ejections a year, but really good shooter, really, and just really good backup big. But they did lose Malik Beasley, Patrick Beverley's free agent, Jake Krause a free agent. So do they bring any of those guys back to help fill out this roster? I'm curious what they do there, because you need those kind of players, like you said, in the NFL, NBA, just kind of players to help fill out a role. Who could be there? Sam Hauser. What's going to happen? Like I said, does AJ Green take a step? Ty Washington, who they recently drafted, is he going to be something? So it's kind of a wait and see there. But at the end of the day, should be interesting. Milwaukee's definitely one of the most controversial teams just because of the way their season ended. But I felt like they did get more so actually of a pass, given the Giannis injury. But it was such a weird, clunky regular season that people don't know, does the chemistry help develop, and then they're 50+ wins again. That's where the question marks I'm kind of looking. But at the end of the day, is there a potential world where the Celtics, Knicks, 76ers, if they're healthy, are they all better? Did the Magic take that next step with KCP and just youth to leap the Bucks now? Do the Cavaliers, who had the same wins as the Bucks last year, do they leap them? And as well, there is a world where Milwaukee, another year older, because they're still one of the oldest rosters, that they take an even worse step back, and you're looking at the 6th seed or even potential play-in. There is a potential world, I do believe, for that, but I'm going to lean more so on the side, just when you have Giannis and Lillard, that this team bounces back and is still a top 5 seed in the East.
I think the only way that scenario happens, where the Bucks are a play-in team or like a really low seed, is if, God forbid, Giannis ends up getting hurt, first half of the season and really can't play much of the second half. And then they're looking for Dame, and Dame just can't, come into that one role like he was in Portland. And
I don't think it's crazy though, because there is that thing where this team just is another year older, and Giannis is still putting up MVP numbers like he did last year, but they're only winning like 49. Maybe they get, a couple of games better, like 51, 52. But Nick, the Celtics should be better than them. The Sixers, if Embiid and Paul George now are healthy and you get Tyrese Maxey, that team was a top 3 seed before Embiid's injury. So you could look at them as being better. Obviously the Knicks, with adding Mikal Bridges, they're better. And then just the Magic, they finished a couple of games behind them, the Bucks last season, but they were one of the youngest teams to make the playoffs. Do they take another leap in the regular season, adding a veteran like KCP? It's not crazy to see the Magic passing them. And obviously them and the Cavs finished with the same record. So could the Cavs, with Donovan Mitchell being there full time, and without the Donovan Mitchell injury last year, they're probably better than the Bucks. So it's like, it's not crazy to see them in a world where they're like the 6th seed, and, I don't think it's as crazy as it seems, but, I could be wrong. But I still think, I'm going to lean towards the side of caution and say they're around the top higher seed, but maybe come playoff time, they're built for the playoffs because they obviously do have that championship. And like you said, that Giannis run against the Suns will not be forgotten. One of the best closeout games ever.
Yeah. If you ask me as a Celtics fan, like super early in the season, obviously we don't know what's going to happen, but in a playoff matchup, I'm much more scared of the Bucks than I am of the Sixers, and that's not just because the history with the Celtics and the Sixers, the past few years where the Celtics have just kind of dominated that matchup. But I'm just more scared of Giannis than I am Embiid. I know Embiid can, at any given night look like the best player in the world, but I still am much more scared of Giannis. And then you have the factor that, then you also got to worry about Dame, who can hit 10 threes on you and put up 40 himself. So age-wise, but I still am more scared of the Bucks than I am the Sixers.
No, that may be the case, but I just think like regular season wise, the Sixers have some younger pieces. Just Tyrese Maxey's only 23, 24. They still got Kelly Oubre, solid depth around Paul George and Embiid if they were to go down with injuries at some point, but I think, Paul George will also be there if Embiid deals with an injury. And if Paul George is dealing with an injury, Embiid hopefully is there and isn't missing significant time. So just regular season wise, I like the Sixers higher, but I do agree. Come playoff time, I trust the Bucks more. It's just kind of one of those things like where a team from 2 years ago, like the Grizzlies, you trust them more in the regular season than a team like the Warriors. But come playoff time, you want that guy Curry leading your team. But with that being said, overall, it'll be interesting to see like we talked about, how does Milwaukee fill out the rest of their roster and just kind of how do they bounce back from just such a weird season. But we're excited. Obviously, NBA free agency is pretty much done. And obviously the draft finished. So if they were to be away, it would be through, trades and stuff, or just, small free agent signings. Like, do they bring back a Jay Crowder or someone? With that being said, should be very interesting to see what happens. But as always, we're going to be here and, cover all the offseason topics. But we kind of were in agreement, they're still, their window's not closed, but, I do think time is obviously running short, just given all the age of their roster and stuff. But yeah, really fun. Make sure, as always, to follow, like, and subscribe if you enjoy this kind of content. We're going to be here posting our videos Monday through Friday. And as always, we'll catch you in the next one. Peace.